Glaze, baby. Glaze! That's exactly what we gotta do here. We already made a similar video about this sort of a thing with Lane Hutson and Ray Bourque, and that was a conversation that I thought was a great one to have because it allowed us to glaze. But of course, you can't just glaze the same guy over and over again. You gotta diversify a little bit. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. Because today, we are talking about some comments made by Mr. Andrei Svechnikov about his fellow countryman Ivan Demidov ahead of yesterday's game between the Canadiens and the Hurricanes. Now, this is the tweet made by Eric Engels. I wanted to go out there and bring this up and dive into whether or not it's actually a reasonable or a fair comparison to make. Mr. Svechnikov says, Ivan Demidov reminds him of Patrick Kane, with the skill and the way he moves his shoulders. Now, this is an interesting way to break down Demidov's skill set, because one of the things that makes him so unique, not just in the way he's able to produce, but just in the way he moves with the puck on his stick. You kind of notice it when you're looking for it, but the way that he moves the puck left and right, and how quickly he shifts from left to right on his edges, to the point that he doesn't need to do many crossovers or whatever. He can get into a gliding stance, and the way he shifts left and right and left and right, and he moves the puck with his hands with him, just the way that he does that, it's so unique. And if you wanted to say it's Patrick Kane-like, I kind of subscribe to that idea to some capacity. I don't want to say he's entirely like Patrick Kane, because I think Kane has a nonchalant shiftiness that defines him. It's something that's so difficult to replicate or to even see in other players. Kane's calm, cooling demeanor, where he's able to just quickly dangle by guys, his quick 1-2, when he's in the shootout, just how composed he is. I'm not saying Ivan Demidov isn't composed, I'm just saying that Kane has a lot more of a finesse to his game that Demidov maybe doesn't necessarily have right now, but he can have it later on. I see Demidov, especially when he's flying down the wing, and when he makes big, bold puck handles, I think he's a lot more of a Kaprizov type than a Kane type. But anyways, I wanted to get into this conversation because there really is a good opportunity to make some comparisons here. And it all comes to us via the Elite Prospects Compare Players tool. If we search up for Ivan Demidov and we look at what he had done in his draft-eligible and Draft Plus 1 seasons, we can compare this to Patrick Kane. Now, when Kane was 18 years old, he was drafted first overall. In this first overall season, he had played 58 games with the London Knights and had 145 points. Now, I know what you're thinking, wait a minute, Kane was 18 in his draft-eligible season because he has a late birth date. Well, you don't need to go out there and think too hard about it, because Ivan Demidov also has a late birthday. He was born in December. So when Ivan Demidov was in his 18-year-old year, this was also his draft-eligible season. He had 2 points a game in the MHL for SKA 1946 St. Petersburg, scoring 60 points in 30 total games and 28 points in 17 playoff games. It was a lot to take in for Ivan Demidov, just totally dominating the Russian junior scene. After Kane was taken first overall, he played in the National Hockey League and scored 72 points in 82 games. Meanwhile, Ivan Demidov had 49 points in 65 KHL games played, and 2 points in 2 games at the NHL level so far. Now, I get it, you can say that the point production translation isn't too seamless because Patrick Kane was a full-time NHL player and he had under a point per game. It's kind of difficult to fully encapsulate the context here because Ivan Demidov was not utilized in SKA to the capacity that he probably could have been. We know that SKA and Rottenberg were kind of rotten to Ivan Demidov and how he was able to play and the way that he was deployed. It was not really a good relationship there. They were kind of salty that they knew he wasn't going to stick around. So the fact that Demidov was even allowed to leave to Montreal before his contract in the KHL expired May 31st, that's already a miracle. And now he's in Montreal. He's got 2 points in 2 games. We'll see what he does in the playoffs, whether or not he can have a sub-point-per-game-like impact like Patrick Kane has had so far. Ultimately, though, the big sample is going to be next year. Because at age 20, Patrick Kane had 70 points in 80 games played and 14 points in 16 games as the Chicago Blackhawks went far in the playoffs. The next season is when Kane started to explode, and then he scored the Stanley Cup winning goal in overtime against Philadelphia, and the rest is history. If Ivan Demidov wants to keep himself in that same conversation as Patrick Kane, then I don't want to say that he needs to get 70 points, but 70 points would be a pretty good marker for him to hit. This will be difficult because Ivan Demidov has never played an 82-game NHL season before. And while it is true that he's got the skills, he's got the shiftiness, he has this play-driving ability that is so difficult to replicate, you have so many top-quality aspects of Demidov and his offensive package. While all of that is true, I don't want to make it seem like, oh, because he's now in the NHL and because he'll have freedom to do what he wants, now he's going to start producing like he did in junior. Like, it's so difficult to conclude that for anybody. We just have to open our eyes a little bit more to what Demidov does in the playoffs and how he plays there and just kind of how he adjusts to the NHL. You gotta remember, Cole Caulfield played his rookie season in the Stanley Cup Playoffs. He went to the finals, and he scored some beautiful goals, especially against Vegas in that 2021 playoff run. There were a bunch of young guys that had good goals in that series and stint. Jesperi Kotkaniemi was one of them. But ultimately, the grind of an 82-game season, I do think that Demidov is going to have an easier time than most adjusting to it. It's very difficult to predict anybody to be the next Connor McDavid or the next Crosby or Ovechkin, where they're so highly productive, number 1 point production on their team type territory. Patrick Kane even, 70 points in his first NHL year? Oh yeah, sign me up for that, that'd be great. So for Andrei Svechnikov to make that comparison, obviously it's a really big deal, it's a good compliment. It's something that I can understand the qualifications for, but I also do think there's a level of hockey dominance that Ivan Demidov potentially could reach that Kane never could. Kane was a small guy, and Ivan Demidov is a bit bigger. I'd say he's a bit lankier too. There happens to be more so of a skill set that I think Demidov can reach that Patrick Kane just never was able to cultivate in his game. Using whatever reach he has or shielding the puck with his body. Kane is really good at doing all the things that he does at his size, and he's an Art Ross winner, 100-point scorer because of it. But I do think Demidov is capable of things that Kane can't do. And that's not necessarily saying that he's better or worse, I'm just saying they're different, even though there are similarities, as Andrei Svechnikov ended up pointing out. So with that in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Ivan Demidov and this comparison made to Patrick Kane at the hands of Andrei Svechnikov of the Carolina Hurricanes? Do you agree? Disagree? Let me know in the comment section all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on. And bye.